Hello, gamers. You're listening to the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. This is episode number 138 and a half, the extended edition.
And welcome back to another exciting episode of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. I'm Ben. Joining me are Frankie and Bender. And you guys are probably wondering what the hell's going on here, because we have a podcast that you probably just listened to. There's another one sitting right next to it here. So this is episode number 138 and a half, or as we're calling it, the definitive edition of episode number 138. So if you guys haven't already, check out the official episode number 138 of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. It should be right above this one on your podcast feed, or it's on our YouTube channel as well. So we had planned to talk about a lot of stuff on this week's show, but we had so much to talk about with the new releases and with the Paris Games Week event that Sony put on that we just ran out of time. So while Brent is toiling away and he's putting together the main episode of the podcast here, Frankie, Bender, and myself are hopping in here. We're going to talk about the rest of the news, because there's a lot of stuff that's worth discussing this week, and we didn't want to just leave that stuff completely off the table. So we are back with a bonus supplemental episode of the podcast here. So this will basically just be a continuation of our news section that you know and love. So we won't do the new releases again or any of that kind of stuff. This will be a much shorter version of a podcast. This is simply a supplement to the episode that you've hopefully already listened to. So, now that we've got that out of the way, Frankie, how you doing this evening?
Pretty good. I went and traded some stuff in. You know, we're getting some stuff from PlayStation Plus, and had a couple more Plus titles that we got that I had discs of. So yeah, went and traded those in, and put a pre-order down for Doom VFR.
Ooh.
So
what's the release date on that one?
December 5th.
December 5th.
It's a good day, right? Real good day.
A lot of stuff coming out in December now.
Yeah.
They're piling on the releases in December. Awesome. And you're, of course, going to play that with the PlayStation aim controller, right?
No, totally. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be a really fun experience, especially with that peripheral. It's going to be really immersive. I definitely want to hear your feedback on it. I want to check it out myself as well. Bender, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well, man.
Long time no talk.
I know, right? So, yeah, played some more Mario today, getting all those moons. There's so many moons in that game. It's insane.
There's, 700 moons, something like that?
It's more than 800.
Oh, it's more than 800. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's more than 800 is what I've heard.
899. Just less than the Korok seeds.
Exactly. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm still enjoying that game, and it's been pretty great.
Yeah, over 800 moons. That's insane. I think I have 60-something moons right now. I was playing Mario before the podcast as well, and that's nuts. I haven't even put a dent in that yet.
It's almost there. 60.
Getting there.
860. Whatever.
Yeah, just 800 to go. I'm working my way up there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're kind of in our normal podcast slot here. We're a little bit earlier than we normally record, but we're on our normal Saturday evening time slot here. So let's say we get down to brass tacks, fellas.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to start our bonus episode of the podcast here with a rumor. And by rumor, I mean rumor. This is like capital R rumor. This is a very thin, a very flimsy rumor. But we're still going to talk about it because it's fun, and that's what we do here on the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We scrounge the internet for bottom of the barrel rumors, and then we talk about them on the podcast as if they're real. So, no. So here's the thing: we've talked about Superman on this show before, and we've talked about Superman in relation to Rocksteady. Now there is a rumor, and once again, take this with a giant mound of salt. Like, spell out rumor in all capital letters. This is a giant, big, flaming rumor, all right? So there's a post that popped up on 4chan this week. Once again, this is not the greatest source for information here, 4chan, but 4chan has a rumor that popped up on there, and I'm getting this information via comicbook.com, their worldwide gaming website. The rumor is that Rocksteady's next project will indeed be a Superman game, and it will be revealed as Game Informer's cover story next week. Now, once again, this is a random poster over at 4chan. Don't know anything about this guy, where he comes from, what his credibility is, how he would even know this information. No idea at all. So, this is what he wrote. Quote, Game Informer cover game will be revealed next week. It will be Rocksteady's Superman game. The scale and the ambition of the game is massive. You will all be blown away by the details. Can't wait to see your reaction, lads. End quote. And alongside that, there was like a screenshot posted of a picture of Superman. There was some kind of description, like some of the descriptions that you might see in one of the Arkham games for some of the characters. But something like this could very easily be doctored, so I'm not putting too much stock into this screenshot that's shown here. So, Bender, talk to me about this, man. So we've talked about Superman, like I said on the show before. I've flapped my gums on and on about what I think a Superman game should look like, and if Rocksteady were to touch it, my ideas about how we could make that a really cool game. What are your thoughts now that this could possibly, and this is a very, very big possibly, could possibly be happening next week?
That is a very exciting prospect. After playing through all of the Batman Arkham games, which they were all awesome, I have faith in Rocksteady that, if anyone can make a good Superman game, it's them. I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know if there's ever been a good Superman game. The only Superman games I've ever played have been not that great.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about time for Superman to get a good video game. And like I said, if anyone can do it, Rocksteady can. I believe that they can, really nail it. If this turns out to be true, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah. As far as Superman's gaming career, he's never had like a kind of a game built around him that was really like stellar. I did like the Death of Superman Super Nintendo game. It was a side-scrolling beat-em-up brawler from Sunsoft back in the day, so that was fun. But that's not like a legendary game or anything like that. Like nobody's putting that on a top 100 games list or anything. It was a fun game, a fun product of its time. Superman is very prominently featured in Injustice, and that's obviously a really fun game. But I wouldn't classify that as a Superman game. It's a fighting game starring many, many different DC characters. Superman is at the heart of the story, but it's not really, it's not an apples to apples comparison. What we're talking about here, we're talking about a Batman Arkham style, or a game that's just built around Superman in the Superman universe. There has never been a really like classic Superman game in that vein. You are absolutely correct, Franklin. What do you think about this, man?
Really excited about the possibility of it. I mentioned this because playing the Batman games and gliding around the city just always felt great. So obviously, Superman flies around. I feel like if anyone's going to be able to nail the controls for flying around a city as Superman, it's Rocksteady. And even their stories, like the stories they've told across all the Batman games, have been great. So I know, if they're going to pursue making a Superman game, like it's going to be the first great Superman game that we've ever gotten to play. And like that prospect alone is exciting. So this is one I really want to pan out. I know a couple of us do as well. But yeah, I know big rumor right now, but hopefully, within a couple days we'll know.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about this rumor is Game Informer's cover story will be revealed supposedly next week, so we will know if this is true or not very soon. Like I said, I am very, very pessimistic about this rumor. Just some random 4chan dude. This is not like the greatest source of information. So I haven't seen any reputable sources like pick this up and make heads or tails of it. So that worries me. But it's still fun to dream, and yeah, if anybody can make a awesome Superman game. It's Rocksteady, and just imagine if they did with Superman what they did with Batman. Like, they bring in people who have written the comic books. They bring in people who were involved with the animated series. They bring in talented voice actors who've worked in the Superman universe before. I mean, hell, just if they follow the formula they set with Arkham, and they go and they bring in like the Superman the animated series voice actors, they bring in people who have written the Superman comics, and they get them involved, and they do all the research and things that went into making the Arkham game so special. Like, I have no doubt that they have the chops to pull off a sweet Superman game. And Superman is so powerful, and he has a ton of great abilities that it's crazy that we haven't had a good video game built around him before, because everything he does should be fun. Like, shooting lasers out of your eyes at enemies should be fun. Flying around the city should be fun. Like, punching dudes into space should be fun. So this is it's an incredibly exciting prospect, and yeah, I hope it's true. I severely have my doubts though, but like I said, still fun to chat about it. Let me ask you guys this. So I've kind of given my idea about ways that they can make Superman more vulnerable, or make it more of like a video game. So one of my thoughts was, maybe if Superman had kryptonite poisoning and it made him vulnerable, he could be killed by his enemies. Like, that would be the basis for a game, and you could go through it and there would be consequences to your actions and whatnot. Also, I recently played Megaton Rainfall. And one of the interesting mechanics in that game is you had a meter. It was like a health meter on the side that filled up as civilians around you died. So there were enemies attacking the city, and as civilians became injured and died, this meter rose. And when that meter rose to the top, it was game over. You had let too many people die as your superhero character. And I was thinking that might be a cool way to approach a Superman game as well. Maybe to base if he's this nigh invulnerable being, to base his life and his vulnerability on the health of others around him. I don't know. What do you think about that, Frankie? Any of those ideas seem like viable video game ideas for Superman?
I do like that one personally, just because, like you said, like Superman, having very few weaknesses, and obviously, I feel like a lot of things just kind of lean on dumb kryptonite things, like Superman Returns, like, oh, he has a whole island made of kryptonite, like stuff like that. Just it's kind of lame. So
it started as a little tiny crystal.
Yes.
And they put it in the water, and it became an island.
Yes, that was a great, real great movie. So yeah, I just rolled my eyes in case you listened to my video this week. So anyways, yeah, I think that meter would be actually cool if you're kind of, the whole point of him is to be protecting, humankind. So yeah, that would be a really cool thing for them to implement. Just like instead of having to worry about, we have sniper bullets made of kryptonite, because we know like that's what's gonna end up happening, right? Like, realistically, that's what they're gonna end up doing. So yeah, no, but that would be really cool, really unique to Superman, kind of differentiate him from other games.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how they would do that, how they would implement a meter like that. And maybe they do different things throughout the game. Like, maybe there are certain levels where Superman's tasked with like saving people in the city, and he's got to watch that meter and make sure people don't die and things of that nature. Maybe there's other levels where he's exposed to kryptonite, or that makes him vulnerable, and that kind of stuff. Like, they could mix it up, because I could see an entire game based around him, his health being tied to the health of others around him. Not sure how that would work over the course of an entire game, but I think certain sections you could apply to that. What do you think, Bender? Any of these ideas viable for Superman? Or what would you like to see from a Superman game? How could they tackle the problem of his nigh invulnerability?
I've always really liked your idea of him getting poisoned somehow, or somehow limiting his powers, and then that's something that they could work into the narrative, where you gradually get more powerful as you regain your as the poisoning wears off, or whatever, however they want to do it.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. I'm not a game dev, but I'm sure whatever they decide to do, if they are indeed doing it, however they decide to do it, it's probably going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
That's why they pay these guys the big bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
To figure out this kind of stuff. Yeah, but I still like my idea as well. I think big epic opening, poisoned by Lex Luthor. kryptonite poisoning in his system makes him vulnerable to his enemies. Like, we have a scene in Star Labs at the beginning of the game, and they're basically telling him that, you're not the Man of Steel anymore. You're vulnerable. You can actually be killed and all this stuff. And then you kind of go through the game from there. I think we could incorporate some like Clark Kent missions as well. Maybe some like reporter missions where you're going out and trying to get the scoop on a story or something like that. I think would be fun as well. But yeah, I really, really hope that Rocksteady's working on Superman. I've said this for a long time. Even if we don't find out next week, that doesn't mean that they're not working on a Superman game. But we'll see, man. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on from Superman, we're going to get into some more PlayStation stories that we have not touched on yet on our main show. And at the top of this list is a heartbreaking story from my perspective, and that's the fact that Housemarque has made the bold proclamation that arcade is dead, and they will no longer be working on the games that have become their bread and butter over the last several years. Ever since the PlayStation 3 and Super Stardust HD. So I'm gonna read their letter to the fans here to give you guys an idea of what's going on. So this is from Housemarque. If you're not familiar with them, they develop Super Stardust HD, Resogun, Alien Nation, Dead Nation, Nex Machina, tons of great games. Some of my favorite games of the last 10 years developed by these guys. They always make a great, really fun game. They're one of my favorite developers. So this was their letter to the fans earlier this week. Quote, "For more than 20 years, we've been carrying the torch for arcade, bringing arcade coin-op inspired games to the market with a Housemarque twist. I think it's fair to say we've gotten pretty good at it by now." I would agree. Our games have received great critical reception over the years, perhaps the best example being Nex Machina, which we published in June to great critical acclaim, garnering a Metacritic score of 88. Nex Machina was a dream project as we got to work with our hero, an arcade gaming legend Eugene Jarvis, who is responsible for some of the most revered arcade games of all time, such as Defender, Robotron 2084, and Smash TV. He has had a tremendous impact on our games, including Resogun and Dead Nation. However, despite critical success and numerous awards, our games just haven't sold in significant numbers. While some of them have reached a massive audience due to free game offerings across various digital sales channels, this unfortunately doesn't help pay for development, which gets costly for high production quality. We are extremely grateful to our fans and partners who have enabled us to work on awesome games like Super Stardust HD and Outland. For your unfailing love and support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. But now it's time to move on to new genres. Lackluster sales of Nex Machina have led to the thinking that it is time to bring our long-standing commitment to the arcade genre to an end. While this genre will always hold a special place in our hearts, the industry is moving toward multiplayer experiences with strong, robust communities, and it's time for Housemarque to move forward with the industry. Hence, Nex Machina and Matterfall will be the last of their kind coming out of our studio. Our purpose as a company remains the same, however, to create enjoyable and memorable gaming experiences for players while simultaneously creating a great workplace that allows people to flourish both professionally and personally. Looking ahead to our next projects, we are exploring something totally different than what you might expect of us, but we believe this will lead to the creation of even more engaging gaming experiences. Our core values remain the same: gameplay first with first-class execution. We are really excited about our new projects and look forward to unveiling our first game from the new era of Housemarque. Whether you have been a fan of Housemarque for years or have just played a few of our first games, we invite you to join us in discovering new gaming frontiers. Stay tuned. Signed, Ilari Kuitunen. Not sure exactly how to say his name. CEO of Housemarque. So, there was a lot of stuff happening this week, and this was one of the things that kind of came out of left field. Certainly took me by surprise. We've talked about Housemarque a lot on this show. We've had Housemarque as a guest on this show. They're a developer I really respect and admire. They just always had the mantra of gameplay first, and they just cranked out game after game that was just a gameplay masterclass, especially when it comes to the twin-stick shooter genre. Resogun, still one of the great PlayStation 4 games, in my personal opinion. Stardust HD is a personal favorite of mine on PS3. I love Alien Nation, love Dead Nation. addicted to these games over the years. Nex Machina earlier this year was an absolutely kick-ass twin-stick shooter with a rockin' soundtrack, pitch-perfect controls, beautiful visuals. It was a fantastic game. I really liked Matterfall as well. It was a different take on the shooter than what we've seen from Housemarque before. It was a challenging game, but it was a fun game. And I'm sad to see them go away from what they've mastered and figured out how to do so well. I'm excited about what's going to come for them, and I'm happy that they're not closing the studio completely. But this is definitely a blow as a longtime fan of Housemarque, and I'm not exactly sure how to process this yet. Frankie, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I'm really bummed out. Like you, I've enjoyed many of their games over the years, especially Super Stardust Delta. That was the first one I really got into on the Vita.
Okay.
I think that was like the game I picked up with my Vita, actually. So I remember taking that thing like to my first PAX, and that's all I did. Like when we were waiting around at PAX, is I'd fire that up and sit in line and play Stardust. I love that game.
Mm-hmm.
With you, I think Resogun's still one of the best titles available on the PS4. I really enjoyed my time with Matterfall, even though that last boss is just so frustratingly difficult for me. I could not for the life of me take that thing down. But that game just really fun. It wasn't, it didn't play at all the way I was expecting it to, but the more you play it, it's such a fun game to play. I still have Nex sitting that I just, after I got frustrated with Matterfall, I was like, all right, no, I'm not going to touch this. Boyce already said the last boss, and this one's hard as hell too. So, but yeah, I mean, even back to Stardust, that was a game I played with my ex a lot because she was chasing a lot of the trophies, so I helped her out with some of those. Great game, just and even like we did that stream of Alien Nation when that came out, and that game was a lot of fun. It's a bummer because obviously, like you've said, they've definitely perfected making these games. They're an absolute blast and a joy to play. This is one of the reasons I really want to pick up Next from Limited Run on Friday, because I would love to have a physical Housemarque game. That would be awesome. The only game of theirs that I regret never really getting into was Outland. And I think that one more so was just when that came out, I think was when the PlayStation Network hack happened. So that unfortunately became a casualty of that and didn't become available for a couple months after. And
Gotcha.
I know I have it sitting on Xbox, and I remember playing the demo because that game is like one of the ones you kind of flip like reality so you can progress, kind of like in Guacamelee. So that's when I'd like to sit down and play at some point in time. But like you, I'm really happy that they're not closing. But I mean, in some ways, you kind of are.
They are.
Yeah, like you're moving away from what made your studio special. But at the same time, we know the type of gameplay that they're capable of producing. So whatever it is that they move on to from here, I'm at its core, I know it's going to be fun. It's just going to be really bittersweet knowing that, what they're making next is going to be something completely different and not at all what I would expect from them.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are brilliant designers. They've made great games. They've always made really polished games over the years. So, I know they're going to take that same kind of, drive into their next project. But, it's just when you specialize in something and then you go and do something completely different, it's kind of scary. As a fan, I don't know what we're going to get from Housemarque. It's like, they've made other games in their past, but they've really staked their claim in gaming over the last 15 years with what they've done with their shooters and their arcade-style games. So, so it's scary because I don't know what's going to come out of them now.
Yeah. The other part of it that's concerning to me is that's a slippery slope for me, especially if they start looking into something like esports stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a big esports advocate as it is, so even seeing them move into something like that is going to be I'm gonna die a little bit inside of. I'm like, guys.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. What do you think, Bender?
I agree with you guys. Yeah, it's a shame that they're moving away from the genre that they've been known for. They've definitely made some. I haven't played all their games, but they've definitely made some great games, and the ones I have played have been really fun and enjoyable. I really liked Resogun. I thought that game was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad to hear that there's games just weren't selling, and but it is very. I'm glad that they're not closing down completely, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of interested to see what they make next. I'm actually I'd like to see what they can do with a different genre. I mean, we know whatever it turns out to be, we know it's going to be fun. We know they're going to nail the gameplay because that's what they do, and it's just it's going to be pretty solid. So I'll be interested in see what they do next. But it's bittersweet because they made so many great games in the arcade genre.
Yeah. When you hear this, Bender, what do you think? So from their letter here, there's a section where they state, quote, "While this genre will always hold a special place in our hearts, the industry is moving toward multiplayer experiences with strong, robust communities, and it's time for Housemarque to move forward with the industry." What do you think when you hear that? Like, what kind of game springs to mind?
I mean, stuff with a multiplayer community like Destiny or
Destiny, right?
Overwatch or
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That's where people keep playing, and it makes me think of loot boxes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I don't know. It's like Frankie was saying. I'll be a little bit concerned with what they're going to do, and hopefully they don't go too deep into the microtransaction hole and all that stuff that people seem to be doing lately. But again, it's gonna have great gameplay, whatever it is, because that's what they do best.
Yeah. What do you think, Frankie? Like, when you hear that multiplayer experiences with strong, robust communities, what do you think in the context of Housemarque makes the most sense that they would dive into? Would it be something like Destiny? Would it be like a hero shooter? Would it be something kind of uniquely Housemarque, but in that kind of space? What do you think?
Given the type of games that they've made, I would expect it to be a shooter of some sort.
Yeah.
That's where I get confused. I think of Housemarque, and I don't necessarily see them making like a competitive shooter, but maybe something more along the lines of like a massively scaled co-op thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something in the vein of like an idea of like Destiny. Obviously, not quite to that scale, but I think something along those lines would suit the type of game that they make at their core. And that would be great, honestly. I mean, if they take even like kind of looking at like a concept like Alien Nation, and I don't know how you would take like the arcade soul out of that game, but like a concept like that. But I don't even really know how you would like grow upon that though. Like, how would you expand that to like escape the type of game you're trying to make, but also,
you
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because Alienation obviously had Destiny elements in it with the way that you got loot in that game, and you legendaries and exotics and whatever they called in the game. But they had the white, green, purple, yellow tier of items in that game. It was set up like that. So I wonder if they would draw on that and kind of expand on that and make some kind of either cooperative or competitive shooter. Although they do say in here, we are exploring something totally different than what you might expect of us. I suppose anything that's not a twin stick shooter would be totally unexpected of them at this point. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see from Housemarque in the future. Like I said, though, I absolutely love these guys. Love the games that they've made over the last 15 years. They're masterful developers. Their product is always a really good product. When it comes out, it plays great, it runs great, it feels good to play. So if they can bring that same polish and ability and design philosophy over to another genre and be just as successful, then hey, I'm all for it if it lets Housemarque continue on. But shame on you for not buying Nex Machina and Matterfall and Resogun and all these great games they've made over the years. Go out and buy those, people. They're great games.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's too bad that they didn't sell, because they are some of my favorite games on the platform. So we wish Housemarque nothing but the best. Like I said, friends of the show. We've had them on here before. They're really good dudes. They're very passionate about gaming, and we wish them all the best in their future endeavors. I'll certainly be there day one, waiting for them to see what their next project is. Mm-hmm. All right, so moving on from there. Some happier news on the PlayStation side of things. PlayStation 4 worldwide shipments have now surpassed 67.5 million. So 4.2 million of those came from this quarter. So, from an IGN article here, financial results for the second quarter of fiscal year 2017 reveal that Sony Interactive Entertainment sent 4.2 million units to retailers this quarter, bringing up the lifetime total to 67.5 million units shipped. These numbers result in the company raising its predictions to meet 79 million units shipped by March of 2018. So, PlayStation 4 continuing to chug along. In so much that they've raised their forecast by 1 million units for the end of the fiscal year. So, 79 million PlayStation 4s in the wild by the end of March is pretty beefy. At just over 4 years, the console will have been out at this point. So, congratulations to Sony. They just keep pushing along with that. It'll be interesting to see how things progress through the next year. So, there's a lot of big-time software due for the PlayStation 4. I have to assume that that's going to continue to drive console sales over the next year and probably 2 years as some of these big-time games come out and hit shelves. So I think, pretty much it's a rosy outlook for the future of PlayStation 4 here. But it'll be interesting to see how things progress with the Switch and with the PlayStation 4 and with the Xbox One and with the Xbox One X now, how all this stuff kind of coexists and plays off each other in the market. So definitely be interested to keep my eye on that. Also of note here, Persona, the series, has now topped 8.5 million units sold. So kudos to them for what was once a niche like Japanese series has now kind of reached a wider audience and is now over 8.5 million units sold. So,
have you guys ever played a Persona game?
I have not, unfortunately.
Neither have I. I guess I'll have to check those out.
I know Brent got really into Golden on the Vita. So,
yep, there's Golden on the Vita. There's, of course, Persona 5. Many of the Personas are backwards compatible or across a range of PlayStation devices. So, pretty much any PlayStation device you have access to, 2 or 3 Personas probably at any given time, depending on which system you're on. So.
I was listening to, I think it was the Basement Radio Arcade last week. It was funny because Enrique was talking about this game, and I think he put like 120 hours into it. I know
Persona 5?
Yeah, I know that game is up to 90 hours for a single playthrough. Yeah. But he was talking about it. He's like, dude, when I finished that game, he's like, it was just, I had to take a break from games because it was just ridiculous just how draining it was, like going through like a game that long. Yeah. I can imagine. Like I know, like we put hundreds of hours into Destiny, and granted, it's you're doing other stuff in between. But I mean, like 100 hours of a story-driven thing for just one playthrough—that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's par for the course with those games. 80, 90 hours. That's like a typical Persona playthrough. I know Persona 4 was the same way. So yeah, but. From what I understand, like once you hit the ground running in those games, you're like sucked in, and that's it. You're in there for the long haul. So
yeah.
So if you are attempting to play a Persona game, just be ready to block out the outside world for a few weeks as you plow through there. All right, moving on from Persona. Interesting story here out of Media Molecule. Dreams is still in development. I don't think this is a surprise to any of us. We thought this might be the case, but this is an article from IGN. This is via an interview with VG247 that Michael Denny gave concerning Dreams. So, quote, "It is still in development, and it is still very, very exciting. We're big fans of everything Media Molecule has done, and it's so wonderful, and it's very much in development, very much still progressing, and will very much be exciting when we next talk about it." Denny teased when people can expect to see Dreams again, saying the game will return quite soon, and when it does, it'll blow people away. Quote, "It's going to be massive. It's incredible. We've shown lots of it before." Not sure that that's true. When we come back with it again, that will be fairly soon. Without putting any dates on it, it's going to blow people away. In case you've forgotten, Dreams will see players solving platforming puzzles by creating items in its levels and possessing characters in the world. It will also allow players to create worlds that look like living paintings, even sketching live with other players.
That's what we'll be doing?
So, maybe. That's what we were doing at one point. Not sure if that's what we'll be doing now. Yeah.
It's like I don't ever remember knowing what this game really was.
Yeah, I don't. That's kind of the first like explanation I've heard of the game too. But Bender, what do you think about this, man? So obviously, Media Molecule, very talented, did good things with the Little Big Planet franchise. They moved on to something very, very ambitious, from what we understand, with Dreams, seemingly trying to create a game that's only limited by your imagination. So that's a very lofty goal. But what do you think of when you hear what Denny's talking about here? He's saying things like it's massive, incredible, it'll blow people away. Is he overselling this game here, or when this game eventually resurfaces, is this going to be like a transcendent, like life-altering experience? What do you think?
He's probably overselling it a little bit. I mean, very few games are like that, where they blow people away. Mm-hmm. I still don't know what to think of this game. I hope it turns out to be cool. What I'm hoping is that at PSX they're going to have some sort of really in-depth like demo of it or something that really explains what the minute-to-minute gameplay is going to be like in this game. Because so far what we've seen, it doesn't really do anything for me. It's just that they haven't really explained it sufficiently, in my opinion. So I'm hoping is that it's going to be something that you can play either in VR or out of VR, optional, and also that it's going to be something that's going to be cool and engaging, and we're going to be able to create cool things and see what other people have created and stuff like that. So, but they're really going to have to sell it. They're going to have to explain it well for me to become more interested in it.
Yeah. And I think it's a pretty safe bet that this thing integrates VR in some kind of way, right? I think that's almost a certainty at this point. I would have to believe, just with Media Molecule's track record and their just desire to work with new technology and integrate new technology in interesting ways into their games. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that while the game may not be entirely reliant on VR, I think there's going to be some type of a VR component. And honestly, for Media Molecule at this point, I don't know if they can afford to make a game that's just for VR. They've been toiling away at this game for a long time, so they need to reach the largest audience possible. It's been a while since they've released a title. So so you mentioned PSX there, Bender. So Frankie, we hear Denny talking here fairly soon without putting any dates on it. That was the verbiage he used. So what do you think? Could this be a PSX game? And Bender alluded to this here too, but I agree. When they reintroduce Dreams to the world, like, they can't do this like they've done with some of their other game shows in recent memory. Like, they can't just put a trailer up and then we move on from it. Like, there has to be guys out on stage explaining what this game is. They have to put together some type of a pitch, some type of a succinct explanation of what this game is and how people can explain it to other people and get people excited about this game. Is that something that we could see at PSX? What do you think?
I have on good authority that this is actually the Game Informer cover game next week. So,
is this from your source at 4chan?
Yes, actually, it's from my friend Danny.
Oh, Danny. I've seen Danny on 4chan. Okay.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely agree. Even when this was revealed the way that it was revealed, because I think this was that year that Sony started doing that type of conference where we just saw a video of it. It was one of the things that bothered me because the way that Media Molecule's games are, like, they don't lend themselves to being like demoed on stage very well. Yeah. And I think even when they did get to actually like do a live demo, I forget which show was it even like the first Paris game show they did where we saw?
It may have been. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I can't remember
it was. It's been so long now.
Yeah, right? But I remember they did like an extended stage demo with one of the shows they did. And even still, like, I never got a clear sense of what exactly that game was. Yeah. So I think if putting it on a stage in any like way, I think it's still going to be hard to convey exactly what that game is. Mm-hmm. But from what I remember of seeing of it and what they were talking about, I feel like that game would maybe just be better off as a VR only title. Just because of the type of things that when I remember that you were like manipulating and creating in that game, like it seemed like a perfect fit for a VR game, like exclusively. Like it might be a little challenging, or you're not like getting that full experience if you're playing it on just like a standard PlayStation console. I mean, I could be totally off base. You know, like I said, we know like very little of what this game actually even is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's funny because I wasn't joking when we were talking about this earlier. This is the most I've ever heard of what that game is supposed to be. So, I don't know. I know Media Molecule makes some really great games. I know you talk about Little Big Planet. I think Tearaway is fantastic. A very, very creative studio. So I don't know. I have a hard time like imagining how they're going to reveal this game and make it sound appealing to the masses on a stage like that. You know, like I almost wonder if, you know, I don't even know if, jokingly about a Game Informer thing, like I don't even know if like that would really be sufficient. You know, like trying to explain to people with pictures. I mean, I think the concept that they're working on is just something that's really hard to put into words. It's one of those, put this headset on and try this out. Like this is one of those type of games to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't have any answers for you either. Like I don't know. I don't know what this game is or how they would explain it to people, but you know, they've got people on marketing teams that hopefully can figure out some kind of way to deliver the message to the people. And yeah, so maybe like doing this game as part of like a bigger stage show isn't the answer. Maybe this game gets its own live stream on live.playstation.com and they take us through the game for an hour, like a la like a Bungie live stream or something, and they reintroduce this game to the world. Maybe they invite the whole press to come by for a week and they go over this game with them and they dive into all the ins and outs of it, and everybody goes back to their publications and writes these in-depth stories about what Dreams is and explains it to the people and you know, gets people excited about it. I don't know, like I don't know what the solution is to Dreams, and I don't even know if Dreams is the Dreams that Dreams was before. I have no idea. So and my hunch is that this game's gone through several iterations. In fact, the first that we saw of this game was really during the initial PlayStation 4 reveal. Like Media Molecule was on the stage with a PlayStation Move demo. They were controlling some puppets or something with the PlayStation Move controllers, and that was kind of part of this game. Then we saw Dreams with painting things and making worlds, and so yeah, no idea what this game is at this point. But man, you know, while it would be cool to see what they would do with a VR-only title, I'm sure they'd do something spectacular. I just don't know if they can afford to speak to that audience of 1 million people only. When you've got almost 70 million people that own a PS4 and you're marketing your game that's very hard to market already to only those 1 million people that own a headset, and a fraction of them are going to have the option to purchase your game, I just don't think they can afford to do that as a AAA studio who's been working on this game for 5-6 years at this point. Who knows how long they've been working on it. I just don't know if that's a viable option for them. I think they can certainly incorporate a VR component, but I think they've got to try to get out to a mass audience with this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very interesting story with Dreams. We will hopefully see this game at some point in the future, some point in the near future, as Michael Denny says here. We'll see if PSX is that or if they decide to do something else with it. Moving on from there, so we talked about the Planet of the Apes game on PSN mistakenly showing up there recently, and we now have a release date for the game. So on November 21st, Planet of the Apes Lost Frontier will be released on PlayStation 4, and Xbox One and PC dates are to be announced at a later date. The game will be available digitally for $20. There's also going to be a special pre-order bundle, which includes the soundtrack and 5 PSN Ape avatars. So, we talked about this game on the show before. It's an incredibly exciting sounding game. It's almost what would happen if Quantic Dream or Supermassive or one of these studios got a hold of the Planet of the Apes franchise and made like their own little like mini Planet of the Apes movie where you can kind of control the outcome of the story. So yeah, in a few weeks we will be able to see what this one's all about. Bender, you still excited to hop into this one? $20 sound right for you?
Yeah, sounds like a good price. I know it'll be a relatively short experience, but it's going to be like watching a movie that you get to influence what happens.
Yeah. So
that sounds pretty cool to me. I really like the Apes franchise, so I'll be looking forward to checking this out.
Absolutely. Frankie, $20 for a 2-3 hour Apes cinematic experience. You down?
Yeah. And I know we talked about this last week. Was it last week we talked about this?
It was last week or the week before. They're all
Yeah.
blending together now. But one of these weeks.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I've never actually watched one of these movies, so I'm wondering, like, if having never seen one, if this game's okay to hop into. I assume it is. I mean,
It is set between the events of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes. So it's set between the second and third movie. So if you've never seen the first one or the second one, there's probably going to be stuff going on that you don't know. But it's also easy to catch up on these films. They're good films. They're nice ones to sit down and just kind of rock out for a few hours. So it would be very easy for you to catch up on this if you're interested.
if I were a betting man, I'd also venture a guess those movies will probably be on sale that week
It's
on PSN. So
it would be a good a good route to take.
yeah, for sure.
Should also note here that the PlayStation 4 version will include PlayLink support, so up to 4 players can impact the story via their smartphones. That's actually something you could probably sit down with Jen and you guys could kind of work through the story together if you guys are fans of the movie. So that might be kind of a cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours, multiple endings, set between those movies, so it fits right in with the ape storyline. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how that one turns out as well.
I think there's a
November
platinum
21st. Platinum trophy as well, so that's even better news. So, moving on from Planet of the Apes, you have a story from EA. So EA says it will bring EA Access style subscription programs to other platforms. So here's once again reading from an IGN article here. Speaking on an EA earnings call, as transcribed by Seeking Alpha, CEO Andrew Wilson discussed the success of the existing subscription services before revealing its future plans. Quote, "Our subscription services like EA Access and Origin Access are bringing more players from across our network to join in. Our subscription player base continues to grow, and you should expect us to continue driving this model to more platforms going forward." Wilson went on to explain the significance of the subscription model to EA, explaining that because of its live service games, such as FIFA, Madden, and the upcoming Star Wars Battlefront 2, players will download games included in the package before paying more for them down the line. Quote, "The one thing that's often lost when we have this conversation is that unlike linear media, the subscription fee paid is not the total value of what a player might expend as they enjoy the games they play inside of subscription. And so we believe long term, while it may take some of us years to facilitate that at the kind of scale that we expect it to evolve to, in the same way that digital music and digital movies have evolved, the upside for the interactive entertainment industry is uncapped by virtue of the value of live services that are born inside of a subscription." So Frankie, what in the hell is Andrew Wilson talking about? Sounds like a whole lot of jibber jabber. I think the moral of the story is that EA is trying to get EA Access on PlayStation, right? That's kind of what this story is about.
I would assume so. I don't know how many other platforms that EA wants to support that they can bring this model to at this point, unless you get into mobile. But I mean, I don't know EA's presence on the mobile front, or what an EA Access mobile version would even look like.
Yeah, what would that? Most of those games are probably some form of free to play already, anyways. I would assume.
Yeah, I think so. So I don't know. That is a whole lot of jibber jabber.
Yeah,
but
so it's like EA Access. It's already on Xbox. It's already on PC. We'll talk about their thoughts on the Switch in a minute here, but it really leaves PlayStation as the only option, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I even look at this though, and they have a couple of games that are great, but I mean at this point, I assume everyone already owns them. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I still think EA Access is a ripoff, but that's neither here nor there.
Bender, you up for EA Access on PlayStation if it comes around?
I don't know. I've never used it on Xbox. I don't know enough about it. I guess it's good to have options if it's there. I mean, people will probably use it.
You like FIFA?
No.
You like Madden?
Not really. No.
Battlefield?
Meh.
Hockey?
No.
Well, sounds like EA Access is for you, Bender. So
Do you
sign
not
up
own
immediately.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst?
Yeah, I already own it. So yeah. All right. So yeah, sounds like it's not going to be my thing.
Well, Now that we've figured that out. One last note here from Blake Jorgensen,
Yes.
EA CFO. So Yorgi back on the show.
Yorgi.
Quote, we've been doing a lot of work on Origin Access and EA Access, and as Andrew mentioned, you will likely see those on other platforms. And you'll most likely see additional content coming into those subscriptions and some exciting things to come there. But we believe that's a very important way for more consumers to enjoy more games over time at a very reasonable price. So we will see what the future holds for EA Access here. One final note here for PlayStation. Kingdom Come Deliverance is available now to pre-order on the PlayStation Store. If you pre-order, you will get the following Kingdom Come Deliverance game, of course. A dynamic theme, some new armor sets, and some new treasure maps. Frankie, you're kind of excited about this game, aren't you?
Yes, quite excited.
Story-driven, open-world RPG?
Hell yeah. I think it was NLG, but they had the community manager on their show a couple months back, and he compared the story to Mafia 2.
Really?
So I'm in. I love Mafia 2. It's one of my favorite games. So, and just listening to him talk about it, his name's Rick Lagnese. He's the community manager for Warhorse Studios. Just his passion for the game, everything that he talks about, the stuff he compares it to. This is one of those games that it's a lot of like consequence-based gameplay. So if you decide, you have like a quest you can go save somebody, or a quest to go and like loot something. If you decide to go and loot something, that person you could have saved is dead. So there's a lot of stuff like that it explores. It's built on the CryEngine, which I thought was really great because I love CryEngine games. I think a lot of them end up looking really great. And that engine is like built for, unless you're the people handling the Lich and Battle Mage port, it's built for like performance on these newer systems. So, really excited to actually get my hands on that game. It comes out in the middle of February, I think around Valentine's Day. So, I'm really excited to hop into that one though.
Nice. Yeah, don't know a ton about it yet, but it does look very interesting. Interesting that they would compare a like medieval open world RPG to Mafia 2. What was the thought behind that comparison?
I think it's the story beats, like just the way that the story itself plays out, and that was another thing was around E3. I think it was around E3, around when we saw the Shadow of War trailer. But we got our first trailer for this game, and it does like the story itself. Like I got a lot of Witcher vibes from it, just the way that it seems like it's handling a lot of the stuff. But the way that Rick talked about it on that show, like it was kind of just like the intensity of like the story and your actions around the events transpiring. So I think that's mostly what it is, just like the tone of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I also got some like Witcher-y vibes, some Skyrim type of vibes from the game.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some of that in the DNA, at least somewhere in there. About you, Ben, have you seen anything about this game? Any interest at all in this?
I haven't been following it, so I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I've really only seen the one trailer as well, and thought it looked interesting. But we'll keep our eyes on that. That one's due in February, right?
Yeah, February 13th.
February 13th. So that Q1 2018, just filling up with promising titles here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another one we'll have to keep our eyes on. All right, so moving on from the world of PlayStation, let's get into Xbox now. And the big story out of Xbox this past week, PUBG, also known as PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, has an official release date on Xbox One now of December 12th, 2017. And by official release date, I mean Xbox Game Preview release. This game is also going to be available with a physical copy, which just has a code for the game in it, right, Frankie?
Yep.
So, another one of those strange things. But beginning December 12th, Xbox fans will be able to play PUBG while it's still in early access through the Game Preview program. We're approaching development on Xbox One with the same community-driven focus that we've taken with the game on PC. As a result, the ultimate Battle Royale experience that fans play on Xbox One will be slightly different than what players know today on PC. In addition to announcing Xbox's XGP launch date on December 12th, we also shared the exciting news that we're on track to launch 1.0 for the PC version in late December. This has been an amazing year for us, and launching both 1.0 on PC and on Xbox through Game Preview are huge milestones for the team. I'm incredibly proud of how far we've come in such a short time, but I'm even more excited to say that we're just getting started. Both versions are being developed at the same time, but they both have their own separate roadmaps. Various Xbox One features and functionality will change and come online over time, just like they have on PC, with our goal being to have both versions aligned to each other as soon as possible. Feedback, as you know, has been critical to the game's success, so beginning December 12th, we want to hear from Xbox fans on what they think about PUBG and how we can make the best version of the game possible. In celebration of PUBG's upcoming launch on Xbox One, we've collaborated closely with the team at Xbox to create 3 special limited edition cosmetic packs: the PUBG Warrior Pack, the PUBG Accessory Pack, and the PUBG Tracksuit Pack. These packs are exclusive to Xbox fans as standalone offers available for a limited time, and as there are no plans to feature any in-game purchases in the Xbox preview version, are the only items that can be purchased during this preview version period. We're super excited to be able to bring these to Xbox fans who have been eagerly awaiting the game as a special thank you for your patience and passion for PUBG. We'll be sharing more details on timing and pricing in the weeks ahead. So, there you have it. We have a release date for PUBG. So there's a lot of excitement about this game in the PC community. Seems like there's a lot of excitement around this game in the Xbox community. What do you think about this, Franklin? December 12th, PUBG.
I'm excited for those of you who are excited about that game. The culling kind of, I don't know, I just playing that really kind of killed any interest I had in playing any of those games. Yeah. I know this is one Brent has been messing with on PC and having a really good time with, so I know he's going to be hopping in there when it comes out. I don't know, I could see myself giving it a shot maybe in January, because like I've said before, December for me is just not a good time for video games. Yeah. Also, I don't, we've talked before too about how I feel about game preview stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, this one's probably a little more further along. Obviously, the PC version will be going into full release at this time as well. So you have to imagine a lot of those like finalized changes are in the Xbox One version, I would imagine. But
maybe,
maybe, who knows, But
yeah,
I don't know. Just game preview stuff just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this story is that they're planning to go into the official game release on PC at the end of December. Now, if you've been reading about PUBG on PC, I haven't played the game on PC, so I don't know. I just know what I've read about the game. But this game's still in pretty rough shape from what I glean. Yeah. So still lots of bugs, still lots of issues, still lots of things that people aren't happy about with the game. Many members of the community are getting frustrated with some of the elements of the game that either aren't fixed or are a problem for the game. So with this thing scheduled to go into full release at the end of December, that's I don't know. That seems kind of soon. But like I said, I haven't played the game. I don't know hands-on what point the game is at now. But I know there are some concerns with community members on how the game is at this current stage. But hopefully they'll be able to iron out all that by the end of December. I mean, the game's got 18 million players at this point, so there's a lot of community members to draw from. Bender, there's a lot of hype around PUBG. You buying into this hype at all? Is this something you want to at least test out?
I don't know. I might check it out at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't really speak to me too much, but if a game gets talked about enough, I'll eventually try it.
Yeah. This one is on the tip of many people's tongues, so there's a lot of talking around this one. Here's something I want to ask you about, Frankie. So one of the things I'm wondering about with PUBG is this is, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but this seems like a very PC game to me. Like, this is a game that's like, it's very early access. It's kind of community development. It's it's a kind of a sterile like shooter. There's nothing really too spectacular about the world. It's dudes in there like shooting each other, trying to survive and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of this kind of like gritty, like sterile stuff that we see in PC games that PC gamers really like. But I'm curious how console gamers are going to react to a game like this. Like, our console gamers going to flock to a game that's not finished, that has issues with it. This is not something that, at least in my eyes, the game preview is only available on Xbox. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it, but I know from what you've said and just in general from what I've heard from people, it doesn't seem like this is a like big time program when it comes to console gamers. So when you're taking a game like this, no matter how big it is, I'm curious if a game like this is going to resonate with console gamers the same way it does with PC gamers, because it just, like I said, it just seems like a very PC kind of game. What do you think about that? Do you get that same feeling?
In a lot of ways, yes. This one is a little bit, I think, slightly different than, what the typical early access game is. Like, there's a lot of hype behind this one.
Yeah, 18 million. 18
yeah,
million players.
So the same people constantly are watching streams of it. I have a feeling like watching something like The Culling and playing it, like this might be one of those games that you're probably going to enjoy more watching than actually playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be curious to see, like, I expect the game to do very well when it hits game preview, but my interest is going to be in the player retention rate. This is a game that we constantly hear, has a lot of current users on Steam, so up in the millions, 2 millions. So
yeah, record-setting numbers on Steam.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's going to translate to Xbox. Are people going to hop in here, play this game, realize it's an unfinished, unpolished turd, and walk away from it? And like you say, like that's the PC player community. They don't care. Like they're playing a game, they're having a good time with it. It's early access. They understand that stuff. They're used to it. Yeah. And I still think like that concept, bringing that to console, you buy a game on your system and you expect a certain level of, quality to it, especially when you're shelling out $30 for a game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, like I said, it's going to do very well when it comes out just because of the hype behind it. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if it's going to like maintain like a healthy player base. And that's honestly where my big gripe with this game is. Like, it's a big, massive multiplayer only game. It's in early access. When it goes into full release, how many people are still going to be playing it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. That's my big concern. And, I maintain like this game is just like the fad game for the year. I think you move into next year, you start seeing other developers get out there, try their hand at it. And honestly, there's so much room for improvement. You even see Fortnite having massive success with their free-to-play, battle royale mode. So you get a Call of Duty game, you get some like Ubisoft or one of these big publishers with the budget to really make a polished one of these. Mm-hmm. I just don't think PUBG is going to stand the test of time.
I think that's a very that has to be a very big concern for those guys, and that's the other part of the equation that I wanted to bring up is Fortnite. And they have 7.5, 8 million players in their game now, and they have a free-to-play battle royale game now that you can jump into, which is honestly probably even more polished than what we're going to get from PUBG when that comes out. So really, people who are jonesing for the like battle royale experience, they can get that from battle royale in Fortnite for free, probably more polished, and probably more console friendly, if I could use that term. As opposed to what we're going to get from PUBG. But like I said, we don't know what state PUBG is going to be in when it comes to Xbox. But with the fact that they're developing, it almost sounds like two separate versions of the game, and they're eventually trying to get them in parity with one another. But the PC version is going to be going into official release. The Xbox one is just hitting game preview. We don't know for how long, so we don't know the disparity between those versions. And the PC version still has a lot of work to do to get that to where it needs to be. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out and how the community responds to this. I will be watching this with a hawk's eye because I'm incredibly interested in this. What do you think about that, though, Bender? Do you think like Fortnite poses a real problem? Do you think that could PUBG be coming out as like a too little, too late? Which seems crazy because this is kind of the game that put this genre on the map. But could this be too little, too late for console gamers? Because by the time this comes out, by the time it gets to its official release, could somebody else be doing it better? Somebody else be doing it more polished? Could Fortnite be a better option for console gamers? What do you think about this, man?
It may be too little, too late by the time it comes to PS4, if it ever does, because on that platform, Fortnite's already establishing an audience.
That's a good point.
They're already getting a good head start. I don't know about Xbox. I think Xbox gamers will still want to play PUBG when it comes out if they haven't already played it on PC. Mm-hmm. And even if PUBG doesn't do great on consoles, they've already got a strong foothold on PC. They've got a huge audience there. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be making money hand over fist either way.
Yeah.
So even if they completely fail on consoles, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah. That's a good point. The point of when the game comes to PS4, we don't know what the audience is going to be like at that point, or what the landscape's going to look like, and then the point that you made, Frankie, about the longevity of the player base is going to be something very interesting to watch. So, really interesting stuff surrounding PUBG. We'll keep our eyes on it, and we'll of course keep talking about it on the show here. All right, moving on from there, Night in the Woods Weird Autumn Edition has been announced. This is coming out December 13th, and this will be the first time that the game makes its way over to Xbox. So, in addition to that, it will this update will come to PlayStation 4, PC, Mac, and Linux. And they're also exploring a potential Switch version of the game as well. So, according to the developer, Weird Autumn can be thought of as a director's cut of Night in the Woods that is great for first-timers and those who've played the game alike. Those who own the standard edition will be able to upgrade to the Weird Autumn edition via a free patch. So, Frankie, I know you weren't too fond of this game, but this game does have its fan base. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people are excited to see this one coming over to Xbox. So be on the lookout for that on December 13th. Mm-hmm. Interesting stories this week about these Xbox One X patches. One of the most interesting ones, Quantum Break, with its Xbox One X patch, takes up 178 gigabytes of space. Whew, that is crazy. The Xbox One X patch is 94 gigabytes, which is insane. I mean, obviously they're putting the 4K assets into there. I mean, Frankie, when you hear something like this, when you hear 178 gigabytes, like, who are we talking about that can actually like download this stuff? Is this like the elite of the elite that can get these patches and has like the bandwidth cap and can afford to take up this much space? I mean, this is there's got to be a better way to get this, just some type of optimization that can get these file sizes down, right? I mean, not everybody has the type of infrastructure to be able to download a 94 gigabyte 4K patch.
Yeah, I mean, that's like what, 2/10 of your hard drive space right there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked about this before, but I like with my past internet provider, I had like a terabyte cap a month. Mm-hmm. So you look at downloading a game like this, and my Xbox automatically downloads stuff. I probably should shut that off at some point. But anyways, like just the thought of downloading, even if you're buying an X with your 1080p TV, so you're not even necessarily going to benefit from all of the 4K things. Like, I know there's the super sampling, but is the super sampling really worth like a big chunk of your hard drive space?
Whew, I don't know.
Like, do you care that much about, the prettier graphics? I mean, some people obviously yes, I totally understand that. I'm not trying to discount that at all. It's just there's a lot about this that's just. Like, I think, like, as we get forward, we move forward, as time goes on, and eventually one day, like, these games aren't going to be available anymore, and, like, all this content's going to be lost. Like, this stuff is obviously not going to fit on a disc. It doesn't make sense to put games out and then put out a disc with the game that has, the X or Pro enhancements on it to boot off of a disc, so... Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I mean, if I were still on a bandwidth cap, like I'm obviously going to be downloading a lot less games every month. And if I can prioritize not downloading X patches just to experience the 90 gigabyte original game instead, I would rather go that route at that point, because then, if I finish that game and I have, 60 gigs left of my bandwidth for the month, like at least I can download another game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. Some of this stuff is crazy, and I feel for those of you out there with bandwidth caps who want to get an X. Like this stuff, like all these file sizes that we've seen for some of these games, just absolutely insane. You got there's games up there pushing 200 gigs.
Yeah, it's just wild for one game.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, and the Xbox One X comes with what size hard drive? Is it a terabyte?
A terabyte.
So a terabyte. So that's essentially like 5 games you can fit on there, before you have to have an external storage device to house some of this stuff. And even then, even if you've got one of these giant external storage devices, if these games are pushing 200 gigabytes, that's going to fill up very quick. So, so it's crazy. But I guess that's a reality of 4K gaming. And if you're getting an Xbox One X and you have a 4K TV, you kind of know what you're getting into with this. So it's kind of already for the elite Xbox gamer, as it is, people that really want that high-end experience. So I guess people just kind of know what they're getting into with this, but yeah, to see those numbers is still staggering. To see 178 gigabytes on there. Bender, you ready to get your 4K TV and start downloading 178 gigabyte games?
No, I don't think I'm gonna need that. I don't know, man.
Do you have a cap over there? A bandwidth cap?
I think I do, but
Okay.
I don't think I've ever come anywhere near it.
Yeah.
I don't download things too often.
Mm-hmm.
Just a game here or there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would definitely. I would probably exceed it if I had to download games like that in 4K. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That is a game and a half for just a patch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm.
Really, it's basically 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Most games are right around 50 gigabytes. So, I know at one point, I'm sure it's still going on, but I know Sony and Panasonic, they were exploring like a 400 gigabyte Blu-ray disc, I believe it was. So maybe that'll be a reality in the future. They'll try to get some of these high storage capacity discs, and maybe that's how they can keep the physical media up. Although I read a story recently that the Destiny 2 was downloaded, at least in terms of PlayStation, something around 50% of its sales came via the PlayStation Store.
Yep.
So we are rapidly moving towards the digital age, and this might just be something that we're going to have to figure out how to deal with moving forward.
That's the summer 2 Call of Duty was like 43%.
Really?
Its
Yeah,
day
I mean,
one
it
sales are digital.
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Those games like Call of Duty and like Destiny, they're in your face when you go on the PlayStation Store and when you go on the Xbox Store. I'm sure that those games are like front and center right there. When you first tab you click on, it's like, hey, Destiny, pre-order it now, get this cool theme, yada yada yada. Like, it's all right there. It's enticing you, and yeah, so it doesn't shock me at all that as we move towards the digital age, these games are being bought in mass quantities online. I did it. We all jumped in there at midnight, so we all bought the game digitally. So,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
for me, like especially one of my big deciding factors for whether or not I want to do digital, a game like Destiny, if I have to be online to play the game, that means at some point owning that disc is going to be pointless, and it's just going to be a fancy coaster. I think of like Mag.
Yeah.
So a game like Destiny, I'm just going to buy it digitally. I would rather not have to go fetch a disc somewhere to pop it in. And like the Destiny 1 disc sat in my PlayStation 4 for, I'm just going to go ahead and say about 95% of, 2015.
Yeah. I'm pretty
2016.
sure Destiny 1 is still in my PlayStation 4.
Yep. I only took it out the other day I actually just took it out the other day because we did that raid attempt a couple weeks ago and that disc stayed in there. So, it's wild. That's insane though. Like, we're rapidly getting there though.
Yeah. We need some more infrastructure. We need some bigger hard drives. We need some bigger discs. We need some bigger bandwidth caps. We need all that stuff to happen as we rapidly approach this 4K gaming age. All right, so moving on along with Xbox here, a couple more things we want to note real quick. Warframe's Planes of Eidolon update coming to Xbox One in mid-November, so be on the lookout for that if you're playing that game. Amazon Prime Video is now available on Xbox One and will be available at launch on the Xbox One X. No 4K support on the Amazon Prime app, though. I believe that's something that they'll... I guess there is some 4K support on there. But I don't know if it fully supports 4K yet. But at any rate, it will be available on Xbox One on launch day. And Xbox Quests, say that 5 times fast, for November 2017 have been revealed, and they are as follows. Log into your Mixer app on Xbox One on 5 different days, increase your gamer score by 400 points, download 2 games with gold. After you complete your 3 quests, you will receive your reward through the Xbox Message Center in the following month. Be sure to check out quests often, as new ones will be posted each month. So, for those that don't know, Xbox Quests is a fun new way to get rewarded for being an Xbox Live Gold member. Each month, 3 new quests will be posted in the Gold membership area, and Xbox One players in the U.S. who complete all 3 quests are guaranteed to win a mystery prize. We'll even be giving away a 55-inch Samsung 4K TV every month to one lucky winner. So, cool program. So get out there and do those quests if you have not yet, and win yourself some Xbox stuff.
You have to
All right,
sign
moving
up
on.
for this?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Sounds like it's open to any gold members.
Yeah, just sounds like gold members. That's all. That's the only stipulation.
Chance to win a TV. That's reason enough for me to go in there and do those.
There you go. There is no need to register or sign up. Just head to the gold membership area on your Xbox One console to check out your quest for the month. That's it.
How long? Is this new? Is this something?
This is new. This is new.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say I've
Thought
never heard of this before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me neither. I was like, that sounds cool.
That's what we do here on the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We're breaking news.
Because
So-
I signed up for that. They have a rewards thing already, but I have no idea how the hell it works.
Mhm.
No clue. I don't know what I earn points on. I don't know how many points I ever earn. I have no idea.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I don't know either. So just have to Google that probably, or somebody can write into podcast@shortpause.com and let us know what the rewards program is all about. All right, so moving on from there, fellas. A couple more things we want to discuss. First off, an announcement that I was really excited for. Owlboy is finally coming to consoles February 13th. It will be available on the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. On the PS4, it will have Pro support, so it'll be available in full HD and 4K. So I'd imagine that that's going to be the same thing on the Xbox as well. But I don't know if you guys remember when this game came out. It came out about a year ago. It just took like the Steam world by storm. This game has like over a 90 Metacritic. It was extremely well received. It's a beautiful pixel art game, just really, really gorgeous graphics. It's a Metroidvania game. It looks like a ton of fun. It's been super well received, so I can't wait to get my hands on it. Just heard so many good things about it. I'll definitely be playing this on the Indie Spotlight when it comes out next February. So little preview into the future here. Bender, you seen or heard of Owlboy at all? You interested in this one?
Yeah, I am interested in this one. I've heard of it. I know it was a long in development, highly anticipated indie title.
It was like 10 years or something, wasn't it, in development?
Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, and I've been hearing good things that it's pretty cool. So I will probably pick it up on the Switch. Seems those indie titles are always fun to play on the Switch. They're perfect for that. So yeah, that's definitely one I'm interested in for sure.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, you heard of Owlboy or something on your radar?
Yeah, I remember. I think Giant Bomb it had come up a couple times in the Game of the Year discussions last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. But yeah, I read this. I saw this pop up on the PlayStation blog earlier this week, so I was reading that post, and it's interesting. Like that game started out development on the last gen consoles, and it's been in development for so damn long. Obviously, we made the jump, so. I'm happy to I'm looking forward to trying that one out when it comes out. Like Bender, I'll be picking that up on the Switch. It's just kind of become like my indie console. I love it. Like I've been playing the Mummy Demastered. I'll like just kind of start playing on the TV, and then I'll go to bed and just pop the Joy-Cons into the grip and like pop the Switch up on my nightstand, play a little bit longer, and fall asleep. I love that thing. It's fun.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So Owlboy, February 13th. Can't wait to finally experience that one for myself. The Walking Dead, the Telltale series collection has been announced. So this game, this $49.99 collection, will be available December 5th for the PS4 and Xbox One, digitally and physically. And it includes all 19 episodes of the series so far. So this features the most recent third season, A New Frontier, as well as visually enhanced versions of Season 1, Season 2, 400 Days, and the 3-part Michonne miniseries. Telltale has also announced that Rogue One, a Star Wars story writer, Gary Whitta, a guy who's been in the industry for a while, will return as a story consultant for the 4th and final season of The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, which will be released in 2018. Whitta was part of the team of writers on the first season, so we know how well received that first season was. So we have a quote here from Whitta. Collaborating with Telltale on the first season of Clementine's journey through the world of The Walking Dead was one of the highlights of my career, so reuniting with them now to bring her story to a close with this final season feels like a homecoming, end quote. So be on the lookout for that, $49.99. If you haven't already picked up these games, definitely do that on December 5th. Another December release for everybody to worry about. All right, now some sad news here, but we've had some studios in trouble this week, some studios closing. First off, Runic has closed. This Torchlight and Hob developer, Runic. This is surprising to me. They just came out with Hob not long ago. But here's a statement from Runic Games. Hey everyone, Sorry. Hey everyone, it's been over 9 years since a ragtag team of 17 developers helped open Runic Games. We've been so lucky for the community that has supported us and made us successful. Thanks to that support, we have had the chance to meet and work with the best people in the world. Our team here at Runic has released 3 successful games, and over that time, we have seen many changes. Team members got married, kids were born, but the most important thing is that we have become a family. I'm so sorry to say that today will be Runic's last day open. Our focus is on our family here and helping them find a new place to call home. If you are in games looking for some of the best talent in the industry, please email jobs@runicgames.com. For those that love the Torchlight series, there will be some news coming. And for all of our fans, our community and multiplayer services will keep running even after the studio's lights go off. It's been an amazing experience to my family here at Runic. I know we won't be far from each other, and I'll miss seeing you all every week. You haven't heard The Last of Us, signed Marsh Leffler, studio head. Now, in addition to Runic Games being closed, Motiga, which is under China-based publisher Perfect World, the developer of hero shooter Gigantic, another game which just came out on Xbox One, has basically laid off most of the staff, and it sounds like, for all intents and purposes, Motiga has been shut down as well. So, here's a statement from Perfect World on the status of the Gigantic developer. Following the news that Motiga has reduced the staff of its studio, Perfect World Entertainment can confirm that as the publisher of Gigantic, the game will continue to be available on our platforms. A core team of developers remains at Motiga who will work with us to support the game and its players, including moving full steam ahead with the upcoming November update and future content. We cannot thank everyone enough for their contributions in making Gigantic the outstanding experience it is today. Perfect World Entertainment recently closed the Seattle office of Runic Games as part of the company's continued strategy to focus on online games as a service. We're grateful to the team for all of their hard work, bringing incredible experiences like Torchlight, Torchlight 2, and Hob to life. Runic Games will remain a part of Perfect World Entertainment's portfolio of studios, and its games will continue to be available for players as we stay committed to supporting and growing Runic Games' beloved franchises. The staff reduction at Motiga and the closure of Runic Games Seattle were unrelated. Perfect World Entertainment stands committed to delivering the best, massively multiplayer online game experiences to our players. End quote. So, a lot to take in there. Runic Games, Torchlight, Torchlight 2, and Hob were all like well-received games. Hob literally just came out, so it's kind of shocking to see a studio like that who's been around for 9 years just released a game that many people have enjoyed, just shut down. Gigantic just came out on Xbox One. It's almost like some of these games haven't even had a chance to find an audience and do anything with their games. But Gigantic was a game that was in development for a long time. It kind of puttered out in terms of its hype. It didn't really come out when it was supposed to, I don't think, and it's kind of come and it's just kind of, I don't know too many people talking about Gigantic. So so some unfortunate closures under the Perfect World Entertainment umbrella. Frankie, what do you think about this, man? And one of the things I want to hone in on here from this statement is the one where Perfect World Entertainment notes that they closed Runic as a part of the company's continued strategy to focus on online games as a service. So this continues to be a recurring theme that we're seeing over the last few weeks. So we talked about it with Visceral, we talked about it with Housemarque, we were now talking about it with Perfect World Entertainment. This online games as a service thing is really like the direction of the industry right now, and I don't know, man. What do you think about all this?
It sucks. I was really shocked, honestly, because, like you said, Hob just came out maybe a month ago, if even.
Yeah, it came on like mid-September, so just over a month.
Yeah, so and that was the other thing too. Is I saw Gigantic, and like that game just came out on Xbox in July. So it's had a little over 3 months to find a player base, and I mean it's free to play. So
yeah, it's a free to play game as well.
So I don't know. I don't really understand it. And I mean I don't have that much experience with Torchlight, but I thought that one had done very well.
Yeah, people love Torchlight. That's like a Diablo type game that I know people really got behind. That's why they made a sequel. Yeah,
so I don't know, and I mean I don't know sales numbers for Hob. I know, like you said, it was very well received, but I don't know. I mean, like you said, it's barely been out for a month, so I mean, obviously, I'm guessing it didn't sell like anything. Obviously, it sold a copy.
I bought
copies because I think you and Bender picked it up. So I don't know, but I mean, I know several people. I mean, besides you guys, who've bought Hob, so. it's shocking to me to see like Runic go under, especially. That was the one that really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But it sucks. Like I'm worrying that we're hitting a point now where we see this a lot. Like you said, like there's a lot of these, our single player games aren't doing well, so we're going to move on to a more service based thing. And I'm worrying we're hitting a point where that seems to be the route everyone is going now. How many of these games are going to be sustainable over time doing that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I as excited as I would be to see Housemarque do it, it's like I look at things like Drawn to Death and Lawbreakers. Those are two games that I really enjoyed, but I don't have the time to dedicate to playing 70 different competitive cooperative multiplayer titles. I don't.
That's the thing, man.
Yeah. So and it was funny too. I forget who it was, but somebody had I think it was someone from Kotaku. But when it was back when the Star Wars thing happened, and they were like, guys, I don't want to just play your one game forever.
Yeah.
And I agreed with that. Like, I remember reading that, and I was like, I think Destiny, if there's a game that I'm just going to continuously play over time, it's obviously going to be Destiny. That's the one that's really sunk its hooks in me. But just a lot of the times, just the thought of having to restart something, and I'm even looking at like Anthem coming up. I don't know that I have it in me to get back into like a game like to that magnitude.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time to dedicate to a game, and I don't have the time to sit here and oh well, maybe today I'll do 5 hours of Destiny, and tomorrow I'll do 5 hours of Monster Hunter, and then 5 hours of Anthem, and 5 hours of Star Wars, whatever. Like, I don't know anybody who plays games like that. So I'm just worried that we're hitting a point now where everyone seems to see that as the new thing that they have to do, and we're gonna hit a point where that's not going to be sustainable anymore. You're gonna have games out there like chasing you for like oh, we're gonna be doing all these little expansions, and you have all these little other content drops that you can purchase with real money, loot crates, all that stuff. Like, we're gonna hit a point now where that's gonna be the thing that studios are going to rely on, and there's gonna be so damn many of them. I'm worried that we're gonna start seeing many more studios shutting down, going that route than where we are now.
Yeah, that's an extremely legitimate concern. I think, especially as costs of development continue to rise, like, people are going to be looking for ways to sustain their game over the long haul, and loot boxes and games as services. Like, this is the way the industry is going right now, and this stuff's all cyclical. So, like, and the industry has always been kind of one of fads. So when somebody does something good, then everybody tries to do it, and everybody kind of falls in line, and then eventually that falls away, and then there's a new thing that everybody tries to do, and it just kind of goes in these cycles. So right now the cycle is definitely figuring out how to turn your game into a game as a service. And I worry about that stuff too, man. And that's the reason I don't play some of these games. Like, Destiny is my game of choice as well, in that kind of reoccurring gaming like sector. Like, there's not enough time or hours in the day or money in my pocket to invest in all of these other multiplayer games to get good enough to compete with all these people and do all that kind of stuff. Like, there's really only room for one of those in my life, and that's Destiny. That's why I wasn't able to put time into the Division. That's why I don't play a lot of multiplayer and Call of Duty or any of these other things. I just don't have the time. I just can only dedicate myself to one of these games. And like you said, if everybody is doing that, like, what happens to the industry at that point? Your games become very segmented. They get very clicky. The people play their game, and that's the only game they can play because they can't afford to play one of the other ones, so you don't have the time. So yeah, it's a scary thought to see everybody kind of moving in this direction. And thankfully, we still have the first parties that have the marketing behind them, that have the budgets to still make the kind of like single player experiences that we know and love. But it's becoming increasingly apparent that I don't know how much of that we're going to get from the third-party space as we move forward, at least in the near future here, and maybe even from the indie sector as well, as people kind of get flushed out and studios close and all that kind of stuff. It seems maybe more of like the mid-tier developers, like the real like 1 and 2 guy like indie teams, like they can still kind of crank out the unique experiences that make. But somebody like a Runic or like a Housemarque, who is not just 1 or 2 guys. There's like dozens of people that work at these studios and make these games. Like, they're kind of suffering the most under this kind of games as a service way that the industry is moving. I don't know. What do you think about all this, Bender? Are you worried about some of this stuff as well when you hear these stories and you see everybody talking about this games as a service stuff? Are we in danger of too many games going this route?
Yeah, that's definitely a legitimate concern. I mean, if everybody's doing it, I mean, there's no way they're all going to. There's no way we're going to be able to play all those games.
Yeah.
Eventually the market is going to get flooded with these games with services, and you know, a lot of them are just going to fail, and
Yeah.
that could lead to even more studios closing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hope I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope people realize that single player games are still viable and everything like that. So I don't know, it's definitely concerning, and I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. Very, very concerning indeed. So, we'll just have to watch how this all plays out, I guess. Continuing on with this theme here, although no more studios closing to talk about, thankfully. Well, I guess we'll talk about Visceral one more time. But EA, Andrew Wilson has their CEO, of course, has commented on the closure of Visceral Games. This once again comes via an earnings call, and this is also transcribed by Seeking Alpha. Andrew had this to say, quote, "Anytime you close a studio, it's a very, very tough decision, and something that we have to take very seriously, and we spend a lot of time working through before we make such a decision. But it does happen from time to time as part of the creative process. During the development process of the game that they were working on, we've been testing the game content with players, listening to their feedback in terms of what and how they wanted to play, and really tracking that closely with fundamental shifts in the marketplace. And we are seeing an evolution in the marketplace. It became clear to us that to deliver the experience that players wanted to come back and enjoy for a long time, that we needed to pivot the design." You may have heard the conversation around single player versus multiplayer, or single player versus live service, and this wasn't about that conversation. It wasn't about this was just a single player game or it needed to be a live service. It was more about how do we get to a point where the overall gameplay experience was right for players. We're also very happy with some of the assets and content that was created as part of that game development, and we'll be looking at how we can better utilize that in line with fan and player expectations in the future. So, not much more to say about that. It's basically the conversation that we've had around Visceral and around games as a service over the last couple of weeks and on this podcast right here. So, but just wanted to point that out, Andrew's comments. So moving on from there, Eve Valkyrie development on hold as CCP steps away from the VR market for the next 2 to 3 years. This kind of caught me off guard as well. So this is via an IGN article, but in an interview with Iceland Monitor via Polygon, CEO of CCP Hilmar Vegar Peterson, no idea if I said that right, explains that Eve Valkyrie will be put on the shelf while the company steps out of the VR market for 2 or 3 years. Peterson indicated that this was a direct response to how VR has been received commercially, but also said we've been front and center in the second wave of VR, adding our belief in the long-term transformative power of the technology remains strong. This change will affect around 100 employees and multiple studios as CCP plans to condense 5 studios to 3. The company's Atlanta studios will close in the coming weeks, while the Newcastle studio will be sold, leaving just the Reykjavik, Shanghai, and London locations. CCP has provided severance packages and job placement assistance for all those affected, the company said. There are no changes to ongoing plans for EVE Online, and the company's product pipeline is strong. End quote. Frankie, what do you think about this, man? Now, obviously, VR is still a niche market. It's still something that's not in every single household that a console's in. You know, the Oculus and the Vive are boutique pieces that very few people own. PlayStation VR is in approximately 1 million, 1.5 million people's homes. So, I mean, they kind of knew the market they were getting into, right? When they started doing VR. So, is this just them overestimating how fast the technology was going to catch on, or what do you think about this, man?
I think that's a big part of it. Obviously, out of the gate, I think Eve Valkyrie was the big selling point for VR from the start. For Oculus,
Eve Valkyrie,
or PlayStation
still
VR.
to this day, one of the coolest VR games out there.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember when Oculus came out, like that was like one of the founder things. Like you get your Oculus Rift, you get Eve Valkyrie. that was the game you were getting right out of the gate. And for me, like, that was the thing. That was the first thing I played on PlayStation VR, and I just it's disappointing to see that I'm just guessing it hasn't sold very well. I've seen, they've pulled the VR aspect out of it. I mean, obviously you can play it in VR, but I mean, like, there's a standalone. You can play Eve Valkyrie as a standard game now on PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
I assume
yeah.
on PC as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just guessing, for whatever reason, this game hasn't caught on. I know there were some weird things around it. Like, it sounded like the game was supposed to come out like as a free to play game, so they had to put a price tag on it. There were still kind of some things in the game that are, like, why are all these microtransactions all over the place? One of those things,
Yeah.
But it's a bummer. Like, this is another one that hit me kind of like with Housemarque. Like, I felt like if anyone understood how to do something really great and cool with VR, like, it was them. And Eve Valkyrie it is a fantastic VR game. It is like the showcase VR title. If you're not playing the London Heist, you want to be in a cockpit in space shooting people down.
Yeah.
It is the best time.
It's so cool.
it truly is. Like, it is like the flagship VR experience. And honestly, like, it bums me out. Like, I don't understand why people aren't buying this game. Buy it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a VR headset, just even on its own, Eve Valkyrie is still a fun game, even if you're not playing it in VR.
Yeah. It's so cool though. Like, when you get into that ship and you blast out of the like the launch zone for the first time, you're off into space. You just look around and there's the entirety of space around you, and you're just like, man, this is awesome. And then you start doing barrel rolls. You get into dogfights, and it's just such a cool game. And I don't get sick playing that game, and I don't know many people that do. So they've figured out, like, one of the hardest things to figure out with VR is how to make a game that's fast-paced and exciting and action-packed, and how to make it where it doesn't make you sick. So it's such a great game, and yeah, it's really sad to me, Bender, to see a studio that was excelling in the VR space and to not be able to see, like, what their next step was going to be or what their next iteration on this was going to be now, because it just sounds like it just hasn't sold, or the technology's just not taking off as fast as they thought it would. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, it kind of sucks. It would have been nice to see what they could have done from there in the VR space. Because you guys are right. Eve Valkyrie is one of the best games in VR. It's a lot of fun. So I don't know. I hope this doesn't lead to any other companies second guessing their VR decisions. I mean, I really hope that people continue to develop for the platform, because it is really cool to play VR games.
Yeah, definitely. So lots of sad news this week with studios closing and people getting out of VR, and Housemarque getting out of their games. And man, it's just hate hearing this stuff for the industry. We our best goes out to everybody affected, and hopefully everybody lands on their feet. Obviously, we're talking about lots of talented people that are involved in these games. So once again, our thoughts out to them, and hopefully they all find a good place from here on out. All right. So from there, fellas, let's finish things out with some Switch Nintendo news. So first off, on the business side of things, Nintendo expects the Switch to outsell the Wii U's lifetime total by next year. So this is something we've talked about on the show, Bender. But the Switch sales currently sit at 7.63 million, and Nintendo now projects that they will sell 14 million units by the end of March 2018, which would surpass Wii U's lifetime sales total of 13.56 million units. So that's in one fiscal year, the Switch will have outsold the entirety of the Wii U's 4 years. That is the very definition of a turnaround for a company there in terms of the console. What do you think when you hear that, Bender?
That's exciting. That's really cool, because we talked about this before the Switch was ever released. I mean, when they were still calling it the NX and everything, we were like, man, if Nintendo isn't successful with this next thing, they may have to get out of the hardware business or something. It looks like they pulled it off. I mean, from everything we've seen, the Switch has been super successful. It keeps selling, it's only going to get better because they've got that Mario Odyssey bundle for the holiday season that's going to sell like gangbusters. I mean that thing is going to be going like crazy. They're not going to be able to keep it on the shelves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome. That's really exciting. That's just going to lead to more software sales and more games coming to it and everything. I love my Switch, so good for them.
Good. So Frankie, Nintendo expects sales of the Switch basically to double over the next 6 months. This 7.63 million number does not include October's sales yet. So so over the course of the next 6 months, obviously through the holidays, this is going to be an incredibly popular item. They're basically going to double their sales and hit 14 million units. What do you think when you hear that, man?
I'm happy for him, first of all. I know especially after that kind of weird reveal event, like it was a system that I think we were all really excited about, and like that initial event that we watched, we were like, what?
Yeah. It was a terrible release event, but they've obviously persevered.
Yeah. So I mean, and like Bender, I love that system. I think all the games I've played on it so far are great. Nintendo has done an amazing job of pumping out titles that you feel like you need to own. Like you want the new Zelda, you want the new Mario. Splatoon did very well. That Mario Rabbids game is really cool. So it is. It's really cool to see like them having a lot of success. Like they seem to have a high attach rate to all of the titles they put out on it. Mario obviously has done amazingly well as Zelda. So and I like Bender, I totally expect that Mario Odyssey bundle to be scarce this holiday season. Like that's going to be under a lot of Christmas trees.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, my hat's off to him. Like that's no easy feat. You're kind of. I mean, I felt like they had enough leeway. Like after the PS4 and Xbox One have been out, like you're coming out now, and I mean, we're doing refreshes of the other systems. It's like, well, do you care about graphics or do you want another system with another set of games on it? So I think for a lot of people, you have a PS4 and Xbox One, the Switch is the perfect companion system to all those. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's where I think Nintendo has really staked their claim, is they've become a device that everybody wants to own regardless of if they already have a PS4 and Xbox. Like people have one of those and they're like, all right, this is like the companion piece to that. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that. As far as the core gamer goes, they've been able to reach them because they've come out with Zelda and Mario Kart and Mario all in the course of 6 months from the launch of the system. So it's become an item that people that already have another system want to own because it's a new experience that they can't get on their machine currently. So so kudos to Nintendo for striking it big with the Switch. We also have some software sales number here as well. So Breath of the Wild, 4.7 million units right now. Mario Kart 8, 4.42 million units. So that kind of shocked. I didn't realize that Mario Kart 8 had sold almost as much as Breath of the Wild. That's kind of surprising.
That sounds right.
Splatoon 2, 3.61 million units. 1-2 Switch, 1.37 million units. ARMS, 1.35 million units. Also want to note here, Mario Odyssey, like you mentioned, Frankie, 2 million copies in 3 days. 2 million copies in 3 days. It's the fastest selling Mario game of all time. 1.1 million of those are in the U.S. alone. So anything stand out to you about these sales numbers, Bender?
Like you mentioned, I didn't realize Mario Kart had sold so well as compared to Zelda, but it's not really surprising. I mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is fantastic. It's the definitive version of that game. They fixed all the problems that were wrong with the Wii U one. So yeah, that's definitely a must-have on the Switch if you like Mario Kart. But yeah, overall, I mean, sounds like everything's been selling really well, and I would not be surprised if Mario Odyssey surpasses Zelda and becomes the most highest selling Switch game of the year.
Oh yeah, that is a foregone conclusion, especially with the game being bundled with the system. So as people are buying the system, they're going to get the game with it. There's no question that Mario will be the highest selling piece of software on the system by the end of the year. I have no doubt of that. Also, during this financial briefing where all these numbers were announced, Nintendo revealed that the SNES Classic has also reached 2 million units sold. Meanwhile, Super Mario Run has surpassed 200 million downloads worldwide, though the company says the mobile game has not yet reached an acceptable profit point, which is crazy. So, not converting too many of those 200 million people to the full version of the game, I guess, which is...
People don't like that $10 price tag.
Yeah.
That's, pricey for a mobile game. They can't handle it.
Yeah, and we also see that none of their other games they've released have had that $10 price tag, right? Mario's the only one. All the other ones have pretty much been free to play. So, yeah, I think they are probably going to revisit that pricing strategy moving forward, and I don't know that we'll see that anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't buy that one.
You didn't buy Run?
No, I didn't have any. Really, at that point,
Yeah.
I couldn't play it with you guys because you're all on iPhones. So when it came to
Yeah.
Android, it's like, well, no one I know is playing it anymore, and I don't even think we can. I don't even think the stuff's compatible, so you can't even chase times or anything. So I was like, okay, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The one of the things that stood out to me, Frankie, when I looked at these numbers, is I think about our story from last week's episode, where he talked about how Destiny 2 has become the highest-selling game of the year in its first month, and it outsold Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild, 4.7 million units, and Destiny 2 sold more than that in a month. How many copies did Destiny 2 sell in its launch month? It had to push like what, 6 million, 7 million units or something,
6 or 7.
something ridiculous in a month.
Yeah.
What else stands out to you, if anything else, with these numbers?
Honestly, I was surprised to see the one who Switch had sold as many as it did.
Yeah. I think
felt
that was the benefit of being a launch game for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I was actually kind of surprised to see ARMS do that well. I didn't think that one would pass 1 million, so that's cool.
Yeah. So Nintendo just selling like hotcakes on all fronts. Also, the 3DS sales supposedly stable even after the Switch's launch. So during the same financial briefing, Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima said, even after Nintendo Switch sales began, sales of the Nintendo 3DS family remained stable, as you can see here. And there's a graph that he pointed to. So Nintendo 3DS shipments are now approaching 70 million units, according to the company. Meanwhile, the company expects Switch to outsell Wii U's lifetime total by next year, as we talked about previously. So yeah, the 3DS still plugging along. I gotta believe, though, like we talked about with Pokemon wrapping up its run on 3DS, like this system will be kind of wrapping up its run as well. So from there, we have a release date for Rocket League, November 14th. So in just 10 short days from when we're recording this, Rocket League will be available on the Nintendo Switch. Bender, you picking this one up? Metroid and Mario-themed battle cars will be included?
Yes, I believe I am. That Metroid car looks pretty sweet.
It does look sweet. It looks like Samus' spaceship in car form.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Franklin, what about you, man? 1999, November 14th, Rocket League on the Switch?
Maybe. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah.
Maybe. I know it runs at 60 frames, so that's good to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So that game pretty much has to run at 60 frames, right? It's not really the same experience without it, so it's good to see that they figured that out.
Yeah, especially since you're doing the cross-platform stuff with it, so it has to perform on par with the ones you're competing against.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nintendo provided an interesting graphic, too, when they were doing their financial report, and it was how Nintendo Switch players play the game, or play the Switch system. So apparently 20% of users play the game in docked mode primarily. 30% play the gameplay in handheld or tabletop mode primarily, and then 50% play it in both modes. So going kind of equally between docked and undocked. What do you think about that, Bender? Does that surprise you at all?
Not really.
Pretty much what you expected.
I'm right there. Yeah, I'm right there in the middle with those 50%. I play both ways. I play it at home when it's docked, and I take it to work with me, play on my lunch break in handheld mode. That's the whole selling point for the system, is to be able to play it both ways. I guess I'm surprised that so few people play it docked primarily. Seems like that would be something that would be a higher number, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's not too surprising, since it is mostly thought of as a portable system.
Yeah, so I think that speaks to, like you said, how the system has been marketed, and clearly a lot of people think of this as a handheld device, and it's it probably made the decision to move Pokemon over to this thing a lot easier when they look at numbers like this, where they're like, all right, so 80% of the people that own this thing are playing it in handheld mode a lot. Like, I think they're starting to feel comfortable now, or maybe we can bring some of our handheld franchises over to this thing, because a lot of people think of this as a handheld device first and foremost. What do you think when you see this stuff, Frankie?
Like Bender, I was actually really surprised to see that a lot of people aren't playing it docked. I know, like, for me, the big games, I don't undock it. I played all of Zelda on the TV. I think when I started the game, I had it in handheld mode just to, that was my first thing with the Switch was firing up Zelda. So just wanted to check it out in handheld mode really quick just to see how it looked and if it was even comfortable to hold and play, the field test.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like Mario, Zelda, any of the big AAA titles that I pick up on that thing, I want to play on my TV. Obviously, like, I don't know why, but for like indie games like The Mummy Demastered, I don't mind undocking it and walking around the apartment or plopping it on a table somewhere, like Wonder Boy, like stuff like that. Like stuff I'm not gonna play for like an extended period of time, right? Like it's just like the quick burst stuff. Like I totally don't mind undocking for that, but like the big immersive things, I definitely it's not coming off the TV.
Yeah. As I've said before, I really like the Pro controller for the Switch, so I do like to play stuff in docked mode, especially like you said, like the Marios, like the bigger style games. Anything where you have to use both of the analog sticks to kind of function. Definitely like to use the Pro controller for that. Mario Kart's a great handheld because you only have to use one of the sticks and use the shoulder buttons, so that one works really good in handheld mode. But yeah, for stuff like Zelda or stuff like Mario, definitely like to get on the TV for that. All right, so moving on from there, EA not ready to commit to making more Nintendo Switch games. So EA Chief Financial Officer Blake Jorgensen making another appearance on the show here. So Yorgi in full effect told the Wall Street Journal the publisher plans to wait until the console has been on the market a full year before deciding whether to make more games for it. According to Jorgensen, it's too early to judge the success of FIFA 18 on Nintendo Switch. As such, EA wants to fully understand what the demand is for the platform before committing more development resources to making new games for the platform. Now, Bender, when Jorgensen says that it's too early to judge the success of FIFA 18, that's pretty much BS, right? They get a lot of their data from kind of first day, first week sales. That's a huge portion of how their games are going to sell. So I think EA has a pretty good idea of what FIFA 18 is going to do on the Nintendo Switch, and it's probably not where they want it to be. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe if they didn't release maybe if they released a full featured version of the game, then it would be a little bit better. I mean, I don't think it's fair for them to release a gimped version of a game and try to use that as a metric for what the sales are going to be.
Yeah.
Especially for FIFA, which I know is a popular game around the world, but I mean, it's not going to really reflect sales here for the most part. I mean, they should have chosen something else. So I don't know. I think they're being a little unreasonable, but it's their business, so I guess they do what they want to do.
Yeah. What do you think, Frankie?
I'm not surprised about this, honestly. And yes, I totally think it's total BS to say like, oh, we don't know about FIFA. Like, I using FIFA as a metric for whether or not you're going to support a platform is just a freaking horrible thing to do. Like, I'm not a soccer fan, and I understand, yes, like those games are very popular, but like at this point in time, you probably have a PS4, you probably have an Xbox One. Those are the full featured and best looking versions of that game. You're not going to settle for that thing on a handheld. They didn't sell when they were on the Vita. They didn't sell on the Wii U. They're not going to sell on the Switch. You know what I mean? And it's just, I hate EA sometimes. I really do. Like, I wish that, and I feel like too, like they kind of, I never got the impression that EA was even, like their whole heart wasn't in supporting the Switch. And it's like Bender said, like this version of FIFA is gimped. It's missing a lot of key features. And, for all intents and purposes, it's essentially like the 360 PS3 version of the game had they put one out. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. So they put out a very half-assed version of the game. People didn't flock out and buy it because reviewers were like, yeah, don't waste your time with this version of the game. I feel like EA, I don't know what the hell their deal is. If you're not going to actually like try to support the platform, why even bother putting out a title for it? And if you're going to use that title like to judge whether or not you're going to support the platform continuing going forward, why pick a sports game? You know, like you have Star Wars coming out, Need for Speed is coming out. Why not use one of those? Use something that has like a global appeal that's not just going to appeal to like soccer fans.
Yeah. Well, I think part of this is I don't think the Frostbite engine is compatible with Switch. Isn't that what's going on here?
Yeah, that's a good point.
If their entire lineup is built off of the Frostbite engine, I believe they use Unreal for the Switch version of FIFA. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what engine it was, but I'm pretty sure they used a different engine when they made FIFA 18. Like they custom made it for the Switch. So I think this was, and looking at it from EA's perspective, they're the biggest part of their business is their sports games. So, and the idea of taking Madden or taking FIFA or taking NHL or any of their sports franchises and being able to do your season at home and carry it on the go with you and always be in the middle of like your season wherever you go, that's incredibly appealing. That was always what was appealing about the Vita version, and that's why it sucked that it wasn't compatible. So you got a Madden on the Vita that once again was a gimped version that wasn't compatible with the PlayStation version, and nobody bought it, of course, because that defeated the whole purpose of it. So at least from my perspective, it made sense for me for EA to be like, all right, well, our Frostbite engine's not compatible. Let's make a custom version of FIFA, which is our most popular game across the globe. Like, this is going to give us a realistic indication across all markets of how our sports games might perform on the platform, which are our biggest games moving forward. So, I mean, I understand the thinking about doing FIFA, whether or not it was the right move, and whether or not putting out this stripped back or stripped down version of the game is a realistic indication of how their sports games might perform. I don't know, but I don't know what else they could do at this point outside of just I don't know. Would they have to get a whole nother development team that just strictly focuses on Switch and figure out a way to make a custom engine for that, or what? I don't know what else they would do.
This is what my current theory is with all of this. So, Fee, I think is the game that's an EA Partners game that's coming out on the Switch. Zoink Games announced that's bringing it to the Switch, and I will not be surprised if the Switch version of that game ends up being the highest sold one. So, I think at some point, I don't know when this will happen, but EA will, when they do reevaluate where they're at with the Switch, they're going to see that. And they're going to be like, okay, well, Switch owners are, big fans of indie games. So I think then we'll see them kind of switch focus to maybe trying to bring some more indies to the Switch. You know what I mean? Like, I think at some point they're going to realize that's going to be the market for this thing. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about this before, like all of us own, a PS4 or an Xbox One. Unless you're crazy like myself, you're not going to go out and you're not going to buy Doom on the Switch on Friday because you have the best playing version already. You're not going to buy Skyrim on the Switch. You're not going to run out and buy FIFA. You're not buying these big AAA titles on the Switch because why would you? A lot of these games you're going to be able to play. They're going to perform, run, look better on the system you already have.
Well, let me ask you this, Frankie. Why you're on that point? Like, we just talked about, 80% of the people that own a Switch are playing this thing in handheld mode. Mm-hmm. So is that not a good enough carrot at the end of the stick for people to want to own these games on that platform?
I think it is to a degree, but also I think too a lot of the games that people are playing on the go, like Bender, for example. Bender is playing Stardew Valley. That's a game you can take to work. You can play it for 20 minutes and you can put it away. I think if you're at work and you're trying to play something like Skyrim on your lunch break, you're going to get fired when you show up to work 4 hours later. So I don't know. I think like a lot of those games, like the appeal for sure is there, but I just realistically wonder, like, those people doing that stuff, like, are they playing Zelda? Like, and Zelda's a bad example too, because you can go and there's so much stuff you can do. You can go and knock out, some temples and stuff and be fine. But I mean, like, you're playing like FIFA. Like, can you play an entire game of FIFA on, a 15, 20, 30-minute lunch break? I don't know. I'm honestly,
if you turn the time all the way down, maybe, like, if you if you adjust the time to whatever time you have, I guess you could.
Yeah. So it's just like some of those, like the short burst experiences, totally. Like I think, like what I do, I play the Mummy Demastered, I'll start playing on the TV, and then, kind of go off to the bedroom to play for just a little bit longer. Stuff like that, totally fine. But I think like the big, like Doom, like, Skyrim, like I have a hard time seeing people taking those games on the go consistently.
It's an interesting point, and that's actually one of the thing about Nintendo's like first party games. So like you mentioned with Zelda, like you can go do a shrine or go investigate this part of the world, and you can do that stuff in short bursts. In Mario, you could go catch a couple moons and then go back to work. In Mario Kart, you could run a few races, and the races last 2-3 minutes, and then you go back and you sit down. So a lot of their first party games actually do lend themselves really well to a handheld experience if you so choose. In addition to, it's weird because they also lend themselves really good to like a traditional like sit down in front of the TV play style as well. So it's one of the things that they've mastered in terms of their game design. But yeah, these big like sprawling experiences like Doom, where levels in Doom are like an hour long, aren't they? To like go through a chapter. So to do something like Doom, and of course you can put the game in its sleep state or whatever. So that's always an option, but it's not the same. Like when you're intensely in the middle of something, it's hard to just walk away from that and then come back to it. Yep. And the quests in Skyrim are really not conducive to short bursts. They're like big sprawling quests that take a lot to get into. So it will be interesting to see how those Bethesda games fare on there and how that other stuff fares. And yeah, I wonder if the people that are playing it in handheld are just really playing like the first party stuff, or maybe some of these smaller experiences. So it's a valid point. All right, so moving on from EA, we have a new 2DS Zelda bundle. It will be out in time for Black Friday. It'll be out on November 24th, $79.99. The Link edition is a green Nintendo 2DS, which comes with a copy of Ocarina of Time 3D. Alongside the 2DS system, Nintendo is also releasing a new version of Breath of the Wild. So it's titled the Explorers Edition. The bundle will include the Nintendo Switch version of the game, a 100-page Explorer's Guide, and a 2-sided map of the game's world. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Explorers Edition will cost $59.99. So if you are in the market for some Zelda stuff, if you're a Zelda collector, there you go. You have another version of this game to now go out and purchase. Bender, you forking out for the Explorers Edition?
No, I'm good.
About you, Frankie?
I mean, maybe because I don't have a copy of the game anymore. But my question is, why wouldn't you put out one with the season pass at this point? Like that
is a good question.
You already had 2 collector's editions when the game launched. Why another one without a season pass?
I don't know. Nintendo wants your money, man. They're not ready to start giving away that season pass yet.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. All right, Mega Man-inspired Super Mighty Power Man has been announced for Nintendo Switch, 3DS, and PC. So there will be a Kickstarter campaign. Sorry,
what's the name of that game again?
Super Mighty Power Man. Clearly not inspired by Mega Man.
No.
Super Mighty Power Man, the Champion of the Galaxy, is the name of this game. It's coming to Switch, 3DS, and PC. There will be a Kickstarter launched for the game. It's coming from Box Hedge Games. And just looking at the screenshots that are included, this game is very much a Mega Man game. And this sounds awesome. It sounds right up my alley. I definitely need to keep my eye out for this Kickstarter. Super Mighty Power Man is described as a 2D action adventure or action platformer that takes inspirations from franchises like Castlevania, Contra, DuckTales, Shovel Knight, and Mega Man. I mean, that's like a murderer's row of platformers right there. So if you're taking inspiration from all those, you've got my vote. Players take control of a boy named Corey, who, with the help from his extraterrestrial dog Robbie and a mysterious device called the Power Grasp, must save the galaxy from the evil General Mach. The Power Grasp grants Corey the ability to merge with other life forms and become one of the many forms of Super Mighty Power Man. Players will switch between 8 different powerful suits, each with their own weapons and abilities, battling various different creatures and giant bosses, and exploring a variety of levels packed with alternative paths, secrets, and items to collect. The game also sports an 8-bit aesthetic and a chiptune soundtrack, which you can hear some samples at, what is this website? SoundCloud. Look for Box Hedge Games on SoundCloud. Check out some of the tunes from the game. So obviously sounds very much like Mega Man. Looks very much like Mega Man. Draws inspiration from lots of awesome platformers. I will be on the lookout for this game. Definitely need to add this to my collection. LA Noire will not fit on the Switch. So it's the latest game that will not fit on the internal storage of the device. So Rockstar noted on a post on its support page for LA Noire, if you decide on the physical cartridge, expect a 14 gigabyte download before you can play, which contains required gameplay data as well as general bug fixes and improvements. So, LA Noire's file size is 29 gigabytes, just 3 gigabytes short of the Nintendo Switch's 32 gigabyte internal storage capacity.
I have a question.
Sure.
When the Switch was announced that it was doing cartridges,
wasn't
the whole point was because cartridges could hold much more data than discs?
Apparently not. Because they can't hold games that are currently being made, which has to be another issue for developers. I mean, when you make a Switch game and you make a physical Switch game, it's more expensive to do so because these cartridges cost more money than discs already.
Yeah.
So to get these like big AAA companies to make games on the platform, their games won't even fit on the cartridge, which is a problem.
And like you said, they're more expensive.
Design.
Definitely like watered down versions too.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm buying a remastered version of LA Noire, I could buy like the last gen version of it basically on the Switch.
Yeah.
And have to still download half the game.
It's weird.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that issue evolves over time, but that's got to be an issue for third parties moving forward. Final couple notes here from Nintendo. Pro Controller support has been confirmed for Snipper Clips Plus, which is awesome. So it'll be out when the game releases this week. And Nintendo is aiming for 2 to 3 smartphone apps per year moving forward. So sounds like a perfectly viable strategy to me. And fellas, with that will bring us to an end of our bonus episode of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. So as you can see, we had a lot of stuff to discuss this week. In addition to Sony's big-time Paris Games Week conference, there's all this other news that we didn't get to on the main show. So happy we got a chance to come in here and talk about this stuff, though. It was a lot of stuff worth discussing. So it was fun to get in here and chat again with you guys. So let's wrap this up. Bender, where can we find you gaming, tweeting, all that fun stuff?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Bender_guitar. You can find me on PlayStation Network and Nintendo Network at me_Bender, and Xbox Live at mebender82.
Franklin.
You can find me on Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Nintendo Network, Twitter at Viperstrike, VYPRSTRYKE.
Awesome. As always, I'll be not tweeting at Piccolo930. That's my PSN handle. That's my Switch name as well. Make sure you check out the website, www.shortpause.com. Follow us on Twitter at The Short Pause. Make sure you're following Brent as well. He's the Dude1979 on Twitter. He's the Dude79 on Switch and PSN. And he's the real Dude79 on Xbox One. If you like what we do here at the podcast, make sure you're following us on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Google Play. We're found in all those different places. We're, of course, on YouTube as well. So we'll have a YouTube version of this show up as well. It will just be an audio version, will not be a video version. So just keep that in mind if you are on YouTube listening to this. If you like the show, if you really like the podcast, hop on over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. If you're not ready to give us a 5-star rating yet, hit us up in the comments to the post of the podcast. Let us know what we can do differently, what you want to see, or even better, send us an email, podcast@shortpause.com. Let us know your feelings. Doesn't have to be criticisms or comments. If you have questions, let us know. We'll read them on the show, talk about what's going on. We love to hear from you guys every week, so definitely reach out to us. Short Pause Gaming on YouTube, Mixer, Facebook, anywhere we can stream, Twitch. Follow us on Short Pause Gaming. Of course, Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight will be live on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll be playing Hitman. And Brent will be live that night as well with a walkthrough of the Xbox One X. So make sure you stay tuned to our YouTube channel for that. All right, so for Frankie, for Bender, I'm Ben. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to this special bonus episode of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week. Adios.
See ya.
See ya.